Europe faces a dark winter as energy supplies run low in the wake of Russia's war in Ukraine, as well as a looming recession. But with data centers having become a key part of life, the question really becomes, what can we expect over the next few months? Joining me now in Toronto at Infrastructure 2022 is Mark Cooper, Vice President of Edge Strategy for AtlasEdge Data Centers. And Mark, this is a big conversation that we're having at the conference, and it's been making headlines for the last few months. And now we are getting into the winter, not the winter months, but the autumn months, and then following by the winter months.
Yeah.
How serious is this situation in Europe right now?
I think it's something it's caught a lot of people by surprise, because you had the situation in Ukraine, but I don't think anyone expected it to escalate the way that it has escalated, and for the knock-on effect it's had to the power markets. And if you look at where the power market now with the pricing, it's tenfold higher than it was probably 6 to 7 months ago. And for consumers, it's a really tough situation, but also for the data center market as well. And it's a question we get from every single customer we talk to, whether it's a prospect, an existing customer, that what are you doing around energy? What are you doing with controlling the pricing? How's that going to impact me? And our approach has been to focus on basically hedging, so making sure that we're well covered. And that was actually something that we'd already had in place, because we had the acquisition of the Colt data center.
10 facilities?
12 facilities across Europe. And when we acquired those customers that came with the data centers, we had to review the contracts, we had to look at what was being done with energy. So we'd actually already started putting in place the whole hedging process. So when this came, we were almost ahead of the market, because we'd already been working on it.
Clever move without even knowing it was a clever move.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that.
Yeah.
So, because you've got quite a widespread geography that you actually built very fast as well. Are there any differences in terms of the energy struggle that you're facing? For instance, in the UK, you still have the addition of Brexit on top of everything else. So,
yeah.
Do you see any major difference between geographies?
So I think there's three challenges when you talk about power at the moment. So one is what's happening with the pricing. The second is the impact on, just the general impact on the grids, where they were already struggling to deliver the capacity. And then the third one is where you have countries, Netherlands was the first, then you have happening now in Ireland, where they're actually putting moratoriums in place and kind of refusing to deliver power. So it's almost a triple threat in the power space. And it's very, very difficult to deal with the lack of infrastructure on the grid side. So you have to look for alternatives. It's one thing to say, okay, yeah, we're sourcing green power, everyone's doing that, but you need to look at who's your supplier, what's happening with substations, what's happening with capacity in the areas where you're looking to build. So that's something that we're very, very focused on, to again be ahead of the problem before it hits us.
Okay, so moving on to maybe a lighter topic around trends.
Yeah.
So with or without challenges, there's always demand. Demand will not shift, it will only grow even during dark times.
Yeah.
No pun intended, actually. What are the trends that are really driving edge deployments in the European continent today?
Yeah, so we're seeing two trends. So one is what we call cloud out. So that's where you have the hyperscalers who are looking to deploy smaller scale compute zones closer to the end users, so whether that's enterprises or consumers. So that's driving demand into tier 2, tier 3 markets. I think in Germany of Berlin, in Spain, think of Barcelona. And then we have what we call edge in. And at the moment, a lot of the edge demand we see is coming from enterprises. So it's enterprises that have IT infrastructure in-house that either has not or cannot move to the cloud, and they're looking for a solution that is in close proximity to either where their users are or their IT staff. So an example would be, okay, my IT staff are in Leeds, I want my infrastructure in Leeds so they don't have to drive all the way down to Slough. So that's happening. Private 5G deployments happening as well, and where they're looking to say, okay, so we've got the 5G deployment there, what can we do again with pulling the compute away but keeping it in proximity to the users?
Okay, so edging, just to be sure, is more like an on-premise kind of thing?
Yeah, so it's kind of those kind of legacy enterprise application or infrastructure that's still there, and I think we're going to see another kind of wave coming as well. So post-COVID, people are looking to close down office buildings because everyone's gone remote. Well, guess what? Most of those large enterprise buildings, there's probably IT infrastructure in a cupboard that someone hasn't thought about. So close the building, but what do you do with the IT stack?
Very interesting. And even though there's a lot of big companies pushing people to come back to the office, that's not really happening. And we have some here that have been trying to do that.
Yeah.
And then, Mark, so when you look at geography, so of course you acquired those 12 assets from Colt.
Yep.
On your website it says you've got 100 locations. So talk me through that, because you are about 12 months old.
Yes.
So, and then you've got 100 locations. I mean, that's Talk us through, like, where are you and where are you really seeing big demand on a geographic level?
Yeah, so I mean, we had our first birthday in September, so we're just over a year old. So when we talk about 100 locations, we actually have far more than 100 locations. It's just that they're the ones we've chosen to focus on in the first instance. So when you look at the assets that came from Colt, they're what we call the aggregation hubs. So they're locations that have large installed enterprise base, connectivity, and there's workloads there that are being distributed out. We're building the next phase of that with the first market being the UK. So we're focusing on Leeds was one where we did an acquisition looking at cities like Bristol, Birmingham. And that's where we believe the next wave of cloud out will happen, but also the edge in motion. And then if you look more broadly across Europe, there's just massive demand coming from the platforms to go into those tier 2 cities. So I mentioned already Barcelona, Vienna is one that comes up a lot, Brussels. So these markets that traditionally there may have been a single player there, and there's now demand that's making it, okay, they're the markets to invest in.
Still fairly sized cities and a lot of them capitals.
Exactly, yeah.
And then just a quick housekeeping question. Has Colt already been completely merged into your portfolio, or is there still something happening internally?
Everything has been migrated in, so the customers have all been novated to us, so they're all AtlasEdge customers
so
now.
That's done and sealed.
And we've rolled out our own IT stack. We announced that with Karma.
Yep.
And they've built this pretty amazing end-to-end DSIM system, but it also can act as a CRM system and plug into billing as well. So,
and what's the next Colt? What's the next acquisition? And let's talk values as well.
I wish I could tell you what's coming, but watch this space. I mean, obviously, with our parents, DigitalBridge and Liberty Global, they're both very acquisitive. So we have a very, very active M&A team, and we're constantly looking at the market. But when we're looking for acquisitions, it's driven by what are the customers telling us? What's the problem the customer has? Which markets are they looking at?
I mean, is Eastern Europe something that you're looking at? Because it has come up a lot, especially this conference, for instance. So we will see you getting to that zone.
We're already in Poland.
Yeah.
So
more towards south.
I mean, Bucharest is one that comes up a lot. Sofia is mentioned a lot. Even Prague, Budapest. So we are looking further towards the east. Okay. But first, we're going to focus on the infrastructure and what we have in Poland.
All right, I'm happy with that. Well, I won't press you anymore. Then. And then, I mean, you mentioned already DigitalBridge as one of your big investors. He's one of your big backers. How does it work when you work with the other arms of DigitalBridge? Because I mean, it's 28 companies at the moment. I think we are one of the 28. You're an edge operator. Then you have the big players, the hyperscale players like Vantage Data Centers. How does the whole, plus fiber tower companies and all that, how does that play into the AtlasEdge portfolio?
It's very complementary. If you look at the assets that we have, there's a very, very good match to, say, Vantage. Vantage being focused on hyperscale. Zayo is another one where DigitalBridge is 50% there. So for us, it's very complementary. And also as well, because we're only focused on Europe, if we get demand in the US, we can then refer that across to DataBank, for example, or if it's a scale opportunity to Vantage. So for us, we're very, very happy to be kind of part of that extended family.
So no plans at all to move into maybe Middle East as well and use the brand to serve Africa?
I mean, I never say never, but I mean, we're kind of laser focused on Europe right now,
Okay. And then, Mark, we are in Toronto for Infrastructure 2022. The conference has been running now for a day and a half. What do you think, what have you learned, and what do you expect to happen over the next 12 months? So when you come back, that's going to be what everyone's going to be talking about.
I mean, for me, it's my first time attending this conference. I've loved it. It's a very different audience. A lot of these events, you go to their industry events, so you're talking to people, or it's salespeople, and it's people you know very, very well. So here it's nice to actually be talking to people who are investing in the industry, maybe people that don't have the same depth of knowledge that we have, and also to hear the similarities. You know, talking to other companies that are facing a lot of the same challenges and the same demands. 12 months, I think it'll be more of the same. I mean, I'd love to be here in 12 months and go, we've gone into another 10 countries across Europe. That would be fantastic. But I think the general secular trends will continue.
Okay. Last question, what keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night is where next? Where do we expand to next? Where can we get land? Where can we get power? And are we going to get blindsided by a customer going, I want you to go into country X, and we hadn't even considered it? Because that's the thing for us, we're very, very customer focused and customer centric.
Okay. Mark Cooper, Vice President of Strategy at AtlasEdge Data Center. Thanks so much for talking to me. As for your home, thank you for watching, and do check our website and give us a follow on social media for more breaking and timely news from across the digital infrastructure sector worldwide. At the Tech Capital, you lead, we report. Bye for now.